Hi there guys, in this video I'm wanting to show you how to make this hat. It's done in Tunisian crochet and it's really nice. It's not too hard. Just that end stitch on all of your Tunisian, I'll show you how to do it, so don't worry about that. And then you've got this little border, but it looks really, if you look close, it looks like knitting. It's a little thicker than knitting, but it gives you that look as knitting is. If you want to make yours longer, I've done 16, I think it's 16 rows, I tell you in the pattern, but you could make a few extra rows, or you could make this single crochet longer here. But this is kind of where it sits, you know, which is actually pretty good. It's not too long or too short. I like it this way, but if you like yours a little bit longer, then by all means do that. But yeah, so this is the hat and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get started. Alright, so to make this hat, I'm using this Red Heart Boutique Unforgettable. It's kind of thin. It's a 4 medium, but it's pretty thin and light to me. But it does have a little bit of a fluff to it, so you know, whichever works for you. If you're wanting to use this one, this is the Eco. Now you'll have to be careful if you use a different one, because I only know it as in this size, so I don't know what how big or small it will be if you go with a different yarn. But if you use a yarn that's pretty similar in weight, you should be okay. But it's probably best to use one like this. And I'm using a size 6mm or a J, and I'm using the hook with this. These are Annie's, I think it's called Annie's Tunisian. Well, it's actually for any crocheting. They're very nice because you take it off here and you use it, you just add it to your different size hook. And but if you've only got the straight hook like this, that's also fine, the Tunisian. But you'd actually want a stopper on yours because we're not going in the round, so you'd probably want to stop. If you don't have a stopper, you can sellotape it or do something, masking tape or something, because you don't want your stitches to fall off. Preferably it would be nice to have a hook with ending on it. This is the easiest way to do Tunisian with this. I was using this straight one, but it's quite difficult to use that. This makes it so much easier. So if you are able to get something like this, it's great. Anyway, so that's what I'm using, and this is the yarn that I'm using, Red Heart Boutique Unforgettable. And yeah, so let's get started. So to begin this project, now if you've never used, if you've never done Tunisian knitting, it's not the end of the world. Now I'm not going to start my project off with this because I've already got this far, and this is what your knit stitch looks like. It really looks like knit stitch. It's actually quite thick compared to knitting. This is the first time I've done knit stitch, and I was kind of surprised because I thought it would be thin like knitting, but it's not. It's fairly thick. That's the back of your work. It does look like the back of knitting stitch, but it is a bit thicker, which is fine. I mean, it's a different stitch. It's just the way it is, and it's curling superb. But I'm going to do a different border. We're still going to put the border on, and we're doing it straight, so we're going to be sewing the ends together. So yeah, but where I'm at now is where I have to decrease. So I thought that I would now pick up and show you how to do this. This is all just straight knit in Tunisian, and but from here it's going to be decreasing, so I'm going to do that with you. But I'm just going to be using this yarn. Don't worry about the yarn that I'm using. I'm just using this to get you to the point where I am here, and I'm not going to put on all the stitches either, because that doesn't take me too long to show you. So you need to be you need to do 88 stitches, so you are needing to put on 88 stitches. So what you do is you're just going to take your hook like this, and you're going to chain 88 stitches. So you just go 1, 2, like you usually do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm not going to do 88 stitches because I want to just show you how to do this. So do that and chain your 88 stitches, and then I'm going to show you what to do. So that's the very first thing. Do that. I'm only going to do a few stitches, and you put on 88 stitches, and I will meet you back here. Now if you've never done Tunisian work before, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to do this stitch. It's called the Tunisian Knit Stitch, and it's really not hard. I'm going to show you how, so don't worry about not knowing how to do it. Just make sure that you've got your 88 stitches. Now, you're not going to go into this very first one. You're going to go into the next one. Now, when you're doing Tunisian, your first row, you're putting all the stitches onto your hook. The second row, you're pulling them all off, and that's considered one row. So the first, I should say the first part, you're putting all your stitches onto the hook. Then the next part, you'll take them all off, and then you've done your rows. So for this one, you're not going in the first, you're going into the second. Just go into there where you would usually go. Bring up a loop and leave it. Okay, go into the next one. Bring up a loop and leave it. Next, and that's all that you do. Bring up a loop and just leave it on. Bring up a loop, leave it on. And this is what you're going to do so that your first row or the first part will have 88 stitches. So go ahead and do that. I'm just doing this few that I have here, and then I'm going to show you what to do next. So this is, and these are all your stitches, and this is how you would count them. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So for me, I've got 15, but as I say, you need to put on 88 stitches, and that's going to be your very first part that you do. So chain your 88, do that, you just put it on and leave them on your hook, and I'm going to show you what to do next. Alright, so for the next part, what you're going to do now, when you do Tunisian, depends on your instructions and what you're doing, but for this one, you first just wrap your yarn around your hook, and you're going to go through the first stitch. Okay, now from now on, so the very first one, you just go through one loop. From now, you're going to go through 2 loops. So go through 2, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and that's all that you're going to do for this row. Go through 2, and just be careful, because sometimes you want to yank and pull out, go through more than 2. Just make sure that you are only going through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2. And when you do Tunisian, you have to have a slightly bigger hook, because it is a slightly thicker fabric that it creates. Okay, because it is a slightly thicker fabric that you make, so you want to go with a slightly thicker, bigger hook. Anyway, so now you're coming to the end. You still go through 2 and go through 2. Okay, and that's what you've got for your very first section. Now, for this specific stitch, this is your knit stitch. There are different stitches that you do. You never go into this very first one. Okay, so you're not going to go in that first one. This is considered number 1. You're going to go into this. So for some of the stitches, you're doing different things. For like your Afghan stitch, you would just come into this loop, and then you'd bring up a stitch. Because remember, now this row, all your stitches have to stay on here. But for the knit stitch, now you're going to go like this, but then you're going to go through to the back. Okay, I've made a little hole there. You're going to go in between this stitch, and you're going to bring up a loop and just keep it there. Okay, so then now the only thing that I can say, be careful that you don't go into the same stitch. After each row, you might want to count your stitches to make sure that you have the correct amount on. Okay, so there's your stitch. So you can go like this, and then just go through the back. Not in that one, just through this one. So it's really going in between. See, there's a hole there. In between these 2 white strands. You're going in there, going through the back, and bring up a loop. And that's what you're doing. So, I'm just hoping you can see. There's the stitch. Here's the top part of your work. Over there. There's the top part of your work. Here's your stitch. And you're going in between the stitch. That's the bottom part. Okay, so there's your top part, there's the bottom, and you should be able to see you're going in between the top and the bottom, and in between these 2. I'm sure that you can find it. So there, see over there, that's where I'm going, right through there to the back. So I'm going in there, through to the back, in there, through to the back, and then you bring up a loop and just keep it. You keep it on your hook like that, and you should have a bit of a ridge in the back here. Okay, so as I say, there's your stitch, and you're going in between it all the way to the back, and you're bringing up a loop, and that's your knit stitch, and that's what you're going to be doing all the way. So I'll just finish this one. I mean, I enjoy doing Tunisian. It's quite a fun stitch. It's different. Now the only part where you got to be careful is at your very last stitch. Now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that means I've got one more stitch. Now your end can be a little bit of an issue, but don't worry about that. You went in there. It doesn't look like you have another stitch, but you do. That's why I'm saying it's best to just keep counting your stitches. Now you're not going into this one and to the back like you did with the other one. You want to pick up 2 loops. Okay, so you're wanting to pick up those 2 in the back. Okay, so there's the stitch, and it's not just the one, it's both loops. That's the only place I can see that you might have a bit of an issue, but I'll show you again. Okay, now you do the same as what you did on the other. You take 1 off. So the first one, you always take 1 off. Then you're going through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2. And I wouldn't make my stitches too tight. I made these a little bit tight. I don't know why, because I'm not really a tight knitter. Crocheter. Between knitting and crochet, my brain has to keep up. Anyway, so you just go through 2. Just keep going through 2 all the way to the end, and then that's your second row that has been done. 2 and through 2. Okay, and you can see it'll start getting that knit stitch. Okay, so once again, you're going to go in, you don't go into the first one, you go into the second one, through the middle, to the back, bring up a loop. Through the middle, to the back, bring up a loop. Middle, back, bring up a loop. Middle, back, bring up a loop. And that's all that you're going to do. The only thing is with the yarn I'm working with, it's a little tricky to see which stitch I have or have not been in. So the only thing that's a bit tricky with the yarn that I'm using with this darker one, it's a little bit hard to see which stitch I've been in, whereas this one's a little bit easier. That's why I thought let me start with this one so you can actually see what I'm doing. I just want to do one of these end stitches again with you. Okay, so I'm going to show you a way to find that end one. Alright, so now for you to find this end stitch, what I'm going to do is make it a little bit easier for you. So this is where the end stitch would have been. You'll see there's like a horizontal bar. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it on your hook. Okay, now get yourself a safety pin and put it this way through there. Okay, so it's going to be like that. Then you're going to take your yarn and you're going to bring it over. Okay, then you're going to pull it out here and you're going to put the safety pin through there as well. Okay, and then you're going to close your safety. Okay, put your safety pin there, wrap this around and then pull it at the back. So you're going to get this part over here and you're going to put your safety pin in there. So it's going to be in there and in there like that. Okay, so that's the stitch that you picked up, your end one, and this you wrapped around, pull it out to the back and then just close your pin and there you go. Then you're going to take this one off. Remember it was 1 and then it's 2 and 2, and then that, when you're coming back, this is what you're going to go through. So when you come back now, this is the stitch that you'd be going through. You've just kept it over there. See, and then that's the one that you would go under. Those are your 2 that you would use. So that's the best way to find that end stitch if you're struggling. So now you just finish this row. Yeah, so that's what it looks like now. You can see it's starting to get a very knitted look. and there's your stitch. So as I say, now you can see there the two pieces, and you're going to go in there. So that's easy. So next time you just do that, and keep doing that for your end stitch until you recognize where they are. So yeah, let's keep going. Alright, so what you're going to do is you do what I did over here. You're going to do your first row and your second one. Then for the next, from row 2 to 16, you're going to just do this with 88 stitches, up and down, up and down, up and down. Now just be careful, because remember I said 2 parts to 1, 2 parts to 1. So you go this way, you go that way, and you come back. That's considered 1, and you've got to get to 16, because you first chained, and then you first chained, and then you put all the stitches on, and you came back. After that, you start counting, going by putting all your stitches on and coming off. That would be number 3. Put on, take off, number 4, because you want to go to 16 rows. So row 2 to 16, that's what you're going to do. And mine measures, it's about 3 inches. Mine's about 3 inches. So yours should be more or less 3 inches as well. But yeah, it's up to row 16. And as I say, so that would be, yeah, it's 1 there, 1 back, considered 1. 1 there, 1 back, 2. 1 there, 1 back, 3. So that you do. So you're going to do, so from rows 2 to 16, just plain, nothing increasing, nothing decreasing. Okay, so that's where I am. I've just done row 16, and now we're going to start decreasing. Alright, so now for row 17, you're going to knit stitch in each of the next 3 stitches. Okay, so we're going to see, that's why I said this is a little bit harder to see where your stitch is. But see, because there's my first one, I don't go in there, and there's the next one. But now that you know how to do the knit stitch, it's not that bad. So that's going to be 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so like I said, you knit stitched 3, and now we're going to decrease. So your next 2 stitches you're going to decrease. So to do that, you're just going to go through this first one, the next one, just don't go through to the back, just through the front, and then with your next stitch you do a knit stitch where you go through the back. Okay, bring up a loop and then go through both of those, and now we've just decreased. Okay, I'll show you again. Okay, now your next 4 you're going to just knit again. So it's knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to decrease. So watch, your first one you're just going to go through the vertical loop. Okay, don't go through to the back, just go through the loop, and then your next one you'll do your knit stitch like you usually do, go right through, bring up a loop, and then go through both of those stitches. Okay, and you've just decreased again, and you can see that you've decreased. And then you're going to knit the next 4, and just be aware of where your next stitch is, especially with this yarn. It is really tricky. I'll actually show you on my other one. Okay, that's 4, and then you're going to decrease again. So after 4, then you decrease the next 2. Go through there and go through there. Okay, so that's pretty simple to do. So for this row you're just going to knit your 4, so it's knit 4, and then the next 2 stitches you will decrease. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next 2, pull up that one, go through there and go through both. Okay, so do that all the way to the end of your row, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. Alright, so you should, after doing your decreases, end up doing just 4 knit stitches at the end. So, and you will end up with 74 stitches on your needle, on your hook. So just make sure that you do that. You've done, it was knit stitch in the first 3, and then you decreased in the next 2, and then you knit stitched in the next 4, decrease in the next 2, knit 4, decrease in the next 2 until you have the last 4 stitches which you just knitted. Okay, now you're going to just take your loops off the hook, just like normal. 1 on the first, then 2 on each of the next stitches. So you're just going to do that for the rest of this, and this is still row 17 because you do 2 parts to the row. So by decreasing the first part, that was 17, and this is, so you should say 17A and B, or part 1 of row 17, and this is part 2 of row 17, however you want to call it. But anyway, so now you're just going to take these stitches off, and you should see that it's brought your work in a little bit now because you've decreased quite a few stitches. So do that, and I will meet you on the next row. Alright, so for our next row, we're going to just knit across. So for this row, you're going to knit across, don't decrease, and then bring your loops off. So it's just your straightforward knit in this stitch, in this one, in each one. So do that for this one. So you knit all of these stitches and then work the stitches off your hook for this one. So knit them on, crochet them on and take them all off, and I'll meet you at the end. Just keep counting your stitches, because otherwise it's very easy to end up with less or more stitches than what you need. So I just keep counting and make sure that I have 74. So I'm just going to finish this and then I'll meet you at the end of this row. Alright, so now for row 19 we're going to be decreasing again. So you're going to knit stitch in the next 2. Remember, this is counted as 1 stitch. So you'll knit stitch in 2, and then you're going to decrease again in the next 2. So that one, and go through the back of that one and go through both of them. Okay, and then you're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then decrease in there, and bring through both of them. Okay, so it's knit 3 and then decrease the 2 together. 1, 2, 3, and then we decrease these 2, bring it through both, and then knit 3. So do that and then take your stitches off once again, and I'll meet you back here, and you should have 60 loops on your hook. So you should have 60 loops once you've done this row, and you should be ending off with you knit across to the last 4 stitches, and then you knit the last 4 stitches. So you go all the way across and you should have 4 stitches left, which you knit those 4, and then you take your loops off, and you should have 60 stitches, and then I'll meet you back here. Alright, so I've taken the loops off and I have 60 stitches, and you can see your work is starting to come in nicely. Now what you're going to do for the next row, for row number 20, you're going to just knit in each stitch and take the loops off your hook. So for this row it's just a plain knit row, and make sure that you still have your 60 stitches, and then take your stitches off, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, so this is our next row, row 21. So what you're going to do is another decrease. So for this one you're going to start off by just knitting 1 stitch. So you're going to knit 1, and then you're going to decrease in the next 2, and then go through those 2, and then knit 2. So it'll be 1. So I'm just trying to hold my hook. 1, 2, and then decrease in the next 2, and knit 2. So just knit 2 and then decrease. So knit 2 and then decrease in these 2, and knit 2. So do that all the way across. And you should once again end up with 4 at the end, and you knit those 4. And at the end of that you should have 46 stitches, a 4, 6. So 46 stitches. So finish putting all your stitches on and then take them all off, and then I will meet you back at the end of this row. Alright, so you should have 46 stitches left on your 46 stitches now. Now what you're going to do for row 22 and 23, you're going to just knit and take off your stitches. Knit and take off your stitches. So that's going to be for row 22 and 23. No decreasing, just knit, take off, and then I will meet you at the next row. Alright, so now for row 24 you're going to be knitting one, knit one, and then you're going to decrease. Okay, so we knitted one, we decreased, and then you're going to knit two and then decrease. So this round is knitting two, so it's 1, 2, and then decrease. So knit 2 and decrease, and then at the end of this round you'll have 35 stitches on your hook, and you go to the last 2 stitches and you just knit those. So you want to have 35, and then you just take your stitches off, and then row 25 and 26 you're going to knit across, take them off, knit across, take them off. So I won't meet you back here after this one. So do this where you knit 2, decrease, knit 2, decrease, finish that off, and then for row 25 and 26 you knit, take them off, knit, take them off. Then I will meet you back here for row 27. Alright, so now for row 27 we just did row 25 and 26, knit there and taking off, knit and taking off. So for this one we're decreasing again, so you're going to just go into your first one with a knit and then decrease, and this is like the other one, it's your knit 2, so it's knit 1, knit. Okay, this is still that same row 27, and you come till you have 3 stitches left, and then you just knit those 3. Now at the end of this row you need to have 27 loops on your hook. So at the end of this one you need to make sure that you have 27 loops on your hook, and then take your stitches off, and I'll meet you now for row 28. We're going to do what we did for row 27. You're going to do the same thing, just knit your first one and then decrease the next 2, and then you're going to knit 2. So it's knit 2 and decrease, knit 2, decrease, and for this one you have to have, so when you finish with this you'll have 21 loops left on your hook. So do that and then take your stitches off, and I'll meet you on the next row. So now for row 29 you should have 21 loops on here. Now for row 29 you're going to decrease in the first 2 stitches. So you're going to decrease in the first 2, and then you're going to just knit 1. Okay, so it's going to just knit 1, then decrease. So we decreasing quite a bit now, and then you're just going to knit 1. So you just decrease, knit 1, decrease, knit 1, decrease, decrease, and knit 1. And do that, and then you're going to have, after this you'll have 14 loops on your hook, and then you take them off. So do that and I'll meet you there. Alright, so this is now row 30, and you're going to decrease in the next 2, and you're going to do this 6 times. So that's 1, 2. Okay, so that's 6 times that I've decreased, and then you're going to just knit this last stitch. You'll just knit this one, and then you're going to take all these stitches off. So for your next row, well, not next row, for your part 2 you're just going to take all of these off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that is correct. You should have 8 loops left on your hook. Okay, so now for this, for row 31 you're going to decrease, so in this one and in this one you're going to do it 3 times. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Whoops. And then you're going to knit your last stitch, and you should end up with 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this last stitch makes number 5. Okay, so you should have 5 left, and we're going to take them off our hook. 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then our last one, let me show you. Okay, so now for row 32 you're going to decrease all of them. So you're going to insert your hook. You should have 4. 1, 2, 3, and then in through the hole of this one 4, and you're going to bring your yarn through all of them. So you've taken them all off, and that's it. You're going to take it off, and we're just going to cut off our yarn, or actually leave a long piece so that you can sew this. I'm going to leave a fairly long piece there, and then bring it through here, and that's it. And then we've got a long enough piece here that we can sew with. Now we're not done yet, because we're still going to make this we're still going to make a border on the top, but we are getting there. So this is where you would be sewing it. Now you're going to want to sew it, obviously you're going to sew it inside out, but you're going to want to be careful because you don't want to see the big sewing. So you'll play with it and see which way is sewing up the best. But that's the top part. It's very nice. It's not hard to do, very easy. Now I'm going to make a border here, and I'll show you how to do that.